Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Alex from Lunar here for Antichrist Magazine to do a cool little interview. For those of you unfamiliar with the band, we're based out of Sacramento, California, Northern California. Really, members are spread out all over. I am the drummer and primary songwriter for the band. Founded the band a little over 10 years ago. Um, yeah, so let's get into these questions. I have them printed out here from the magazine to answer. So let's see. First question: what is the meaning behind the band name? Oh man, we're gonna start off with a stupid one, I guess, for for the answer. I mean, not a stupid question, stupid answer, because there is no good meaning behind it. Basically, I founded the band with Ryan Irwin, and he and I are both big Opeth fans. He has since passed away. But we basically were trying to think of a band name and thought like, well, what kind of bands do we like? Well, we're both big fans of Opeth. Where'd they get their name from? We read somewhere that it was supposed to be a lost city on the moon. So the moon, that's pretty cool. Lunar, that has to do with the moon. That's cool. Let's go with that. That's it. That's the story. There is no deeper meaning behind it, unfortunately. um, so Again, just to clarify, not a stupid question. No dig at the interviewer here. Just a stupid answer, a stupid story on our part. Um, Next question. Can you tell us a little bit about Tempora Mutantor? Yes, that is the new album. When I'm filming this, it is just 2 days old. It just came out on Friday, this past Friday, January 31st. It is our fourth full length album. It is the title is Latin for essentially for the passing of time, and so that's the overarching theme with this album is just the passing of time. And I think yes, with this we'll kind of go into the next question too. So can you talk about the lyrics on this release? Is the next question. So yes, going with that theme, the passage of time, the passing of time. Just a lot of the lyrics are reflective of different aspects of that about how we perceive time, how each of us can perceive it differently, how it can feel different depending on what's going on. When terrible things are happening to us, that it can feel like it takes forever, whereas the moments that we love seem to just be gone in the blink of an eye. Things like that, things of how some people don't get enough time in this life. Others get too much and more than they deserve. Coping mechanisms of how we deal with it. Things like addiction, and how we slow time down or try to speed it up or try and pass it in different ways. That some of them are healthy and some of them unhealthy. Memories, about how as time goes on with people that we've loved and lost, how they can start to fade away over time, and these memories that were once so vivid just disappear. Or again, the opposite of that too, the how memories that we don't want, the cringy stuff that we do in life, seems to just linger in our heads and stay with us forever, and we dwell on it, and all different aspects of time like that. Um, let's see. Can you tell us a little bit about the album cover art? Yes, I would love to. The album cover was once again painted by my father, Ed Bosson. So he also did the covers of our first album, Theogony, and the second album, Eidolon, and now he's done this one as well. So the story behind it really is the if you look at if you get a physical copy, if you get the CD, you will see that the back cover of the CD has a similar picture as the front cover, but it's a little more yellow tinted. That painting is one that he did years and years ago and been hanging in my house forever, and is just one that I thought I like that. I would like to use that for something when the time is appropriate. With this album, with the passing of time theme, it felt appropriate, and so I wanted kind of this view of this landscape that he did, but I wanted to showcase it in different times. So essentially, kind of playing on the season aspects, So he ended up doing three other paintings of the exact same image at different times of the year, and so the one that I had before ended up being the autumn piece, the fall piece, and the others that he did, there was a summer one, a spring one, and a winter one. The winter one ended up being my favorite. and so that became the front cover, felt the most appropriate for that. But also then the singles that kind of reflect those seasonal pun titles. You know, there's Fall Back into Old Habits, Spring in My Step, Weakening Winter Touch, and A Summer to Forget. And so the corresponding artwork went with those singles as well. Okay, next question. Can you share insights into your cooperation with Sabot Reigns Records? Okay, here's another stupid answer for you. Sabot Reigns Records isn't really a thing. So for those of you that aren't familiar with other stuff that I do, I also play for a band called Helium Prime. Good friend of mine, Jason Ashcraft, is the main founder of that band. The last album that we did with that band, called Question Everything, was released basically independently, and he came up with the Sabot Reigns Records as like just a way to release it on something, even though it was just self-done by us. And so with Lunar, we did this with the previous album with The Illusionist, and now with this one too, where I was just basically like, hey, can I just use that for these releases too? And he said, yeah, sure, go ahead. So that's all it is. There's nothing really much else to it. It's essentially just his thing that we use for independent music releases. What do you do for your livelihood outside of music? So my main primary day job is I'm a teacher, a drum teacher. But everything that I do for my livelihood is music related, which I'm very grateful for. Between doing things like Lunar, teaching, and then I also do hired session work here in my home studio. So bands and artists that say, you know, like, hey, we have this project, this song, this album, whatever it may be, and we don't have a drummer. Can we hire you to write and record drums for it? And so I make some of my income that way as well. And I'm available for anybody that needs some drum work. Okay, next question. When did you first discover your interest in metal music? Interesting. Sorry for my squeaky chair. Let's see. I can remember being introduced by some family members to some metal music pretty early in my life, probably around 7 or 8 years old. I remember distinctly a cousin showing me a White Zombie record at that age, and I was digging it. But I think where it really set in for me, I grew up in the 90s. I was born in the late 80s, and so I was very much a new metal kid. So, when I think a big one for me was discovering Slipknot, and especially Joey Jordison on drums. It was one that was just very like, whoa, this is something I've never heard before, and kind of, expanded from there. And I started getting into a lot of the stuff that was popular at that point in time, Korn and Linkin Park and Tool and things like that, and for the record, all still bands that I enjoy. And then not too long after that, when I got into high school, when I was about 14 years old, then I started being introduced to more of the underground side of metal, the more death metal and black metal stuff, and started learning about bands like Deicide and Cannibal Corpse, Dimmu Borgir, things like that. And then around that time, I discovered Opeth for the first time. I heard Blackwater Park right soon after it had come out, and that was another one of those like, whoa, what is this? This eye-opening, life-changing. I've never heard stuff like this, and Opeth has stuck with me from that day very much and influenced a lot of my musical tastes and writing styles and playing styles, I think. All right, next question. What obstacles have you faced as a musician, and how did you overcome them? It's a good question. I like this one. I think a lot of musicians these days, not just me, really just face the financial obstacles. I've talked to and had friends that have played, in bands that were around in the 80s and 90s, and just the difference of how things are these days with how record labels work and booking agents and Spotify streams and the income that comes with that, and the lack thereof for many artists, and not having the same kind of financial support from record labels and things like that. There's such a oversaturation, I'll say, and not necessarily meaning that as a negative term, of music out there these days. There is just so much with the technology we have these days, with streaming and with home studios and things like that. Everybody can put things out there, which is wonderful because we can be exposed to so much more great music, great artists. But that also makes it so that there's not exactly enough to go around for everyone. So there's a lot of artists that we've been doing this for a long time, and we have to have our day jobs to fund what we need to do, and it makes things like putting out records and doing gigs and tours and stuff. It makes it very difficult. So the latter half of that question, how did you overcome it? I don't think I have. I've been fortunate that I do better than a lot of people in that department, in that I can do these things, and there are plenty out there that can't, and I wish that weren't the case. So yeah. Also, to a separate answer to that question, another hardship. This isn't necessarily as a musician, but just having chronic back problems. I've had 4 spine surgeries in my life, and so being a drummer with chronic back problems definitely has been a hardship in music life. It makes it very difficult to travel, lugging gear around, things like that, especially as an artist, like I was talking about, doing these self-funded DIY tours where you're, sleeping in a van in a Walmart parking lot, stuff like that, and trying to lug drums around. But again, I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of great people by my side in those instances that are willing to help out, and I've taken a lot of care and precaution trying to get healthier and stronger and better so that I can continue to do this. And the music is a big reason for that. When I went through a lot of those hardships, I was not able to drum when my back was at its worst. And part of what gave me the drive to fight, to get better, was the will, the desire to play drums again and play music and write music. And it was after that Lunar was even formed. So if I hadn't had that fight, that drive, then I wouldn't be here right now. Lunar wouldn't exist, There you go. Okay, next question. Where was I? Is there a specific non-metal genre or artist you'd love to collaborate with? Let's see. Genre-wise, I feel like, being a progressive metal artist, I definitely am interested in taking influence from all kinds of genres. So I want to put more of that in, some more, electronic, maybe funk, things like that, that could go into Lunar music. Artist-wise, I think the answer right off the top of my head for me would be Steven Wilson. He's not a metal artist. Despite, I know metal websites will talk about him, and he has his affiliation with metal artists and some influence of metal here and there, but ultimately not a metal artist. And he is just in my personal opinion, a musical genius, and very, very creative and diverse, and somebody that I would absolutely love to work with someday. Let's see. Next question. How do you perceive the evolution of metal music over the years? That's an interesting one. Let's see. I don't fully know how to answer that. I think it's, I think it's a natural progression that it has taken. I think it's, we've gotten to a point where, again, with the oversaturation, maybe there's so many subgenres within metal these days. It's not just, like it was before, of just everything being classified as heavy metal, or even, from that thrash metal, glam metal, death metal, things like that. It's expanded beyond that into all this avant-garde, symphonic, blackened death thrash with hints of doom and stoner, and you know what I so my point, not to, even though that can kind of bother me, it means that the music is progressing. It is drawing this influence from all these different aspects that is creating these different subgenres, because when you are looking at what these subgenres are, a progressive metal album or a power metal album is not going to be the same as some technical death metal album. You know, they are both metal, but they're not the same thing. And I think that's wonderful because, again, obviously, I love the diversity of metal music. So that's great to see. Not to mention musicianship in itself. You know, I think metal musicians have often in the greater scope of the world have been underrated as some of the just the greatest musicians out there. And that continues to grow and grow. There are these musicians out there, these metal bands, especially a lot of this like instrumental type stuff where these guys are just doing stuff that you're just like, I don't even know how that's human, but you do it and it's fucking amazing, you know? So yeah, I hope that I feel like that was kind of a weird answer to that question, but hopefully a good one. All right. Let's see. Next one. Where are we? Rapid fire section. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I'm not good at short answers, as you can tell. I'll do my best with this. Let's see. Rapid fire. Your thoughts on AI generated cover art? Let's see. I understand you know, AI being the natural evolution of how things are going again. I don't care for it being the final product, basically, is my answer. I think that it's great that it's out there to help us try and show others what's in our head to get a real human to do it in the same way that, you know, I often do with music or other musicians that I know, where it's great that we have these tools where we can program instruments. So for someone like me who does not play these instruments well, I can say these are the ideas that I have for these songs in my head, and then hire real guitar players to come in and say, make this human and make it good, make it proper for what it should be, and just take this idea that's in my head. And it should be the same kind of thing with AI cover art. I think it can be a great way for somebody who is not artistic to convey an idea of what they have, so then they can deliver it to a real person. My opinion. First album you bought with your own money. I believe, I don't know if it was with my own money. The first album I remember getting, it was probably with like an allowance that I got, but it was Tragic Kingdom by No Doubt. That's definitely the first CD I remember buying. Possibly with my own money. I remember in a pawn shop when I was real young, I found a copy of Megadeth's Symphony of Destruction, and it was like 50 cents or something like that. And so that might have been the first with my own money. But one of those two, I'd say. Is there a conspiracy theory you think could actually be true? Oh, I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time with conspiracy theories, I don't think. Nothing's even coming to my mind. Aliens, if that's a conspiracy theory, I believe aliens exist. There has to be life somewhere outside of this dinky little planet in the vastness of the universe. That's the best I got for you with that. If your music were a movie, which one would it be? Oh, geez, I don't know. I have no idea. We'll say Human Centipede, because it's fucking weird. How about that? What's the worst job you've ever had? I worked at a chain auto parts store when I was about 17 years old, and I fucking hated it. It was, it was retail, which is terrible. Two, it was auto parts, which I knew nothing about. I have no interest in cars, no dig on anybody that does. It's just not my thing. So I did not care about the stuff that was going on there. And the people that I worked with there were a bunch of just like stuck up old crotchety men that didn't like Little Metalhead Kid. I remember my hair was super long when I had that job, and it was not appropriate in their eyes. So they still gave me the job, but I had to wear a baseball cap and put all my hair up inside it to work there because boys don't have long hair, I think was just their mindset. And so yeah, fucking stupid. Definitely that. Favorite pop song? Well, there's different eras of pop too. That's a tough thing to answer. I'm not good with these. I can't list favorite albums or anything either because it can vary depending on my mood and you know things like that. But let's see. Growing up through the '90s, that era of pop. Let's see. "Backstreet's Back" by Backstreet Boys. That's a great pop song. Really, really gets the blood flowing. It's got great energy to it. Um, Newer than that, I've always really liked "Harder to Breathe" by Maroon 5. A little pop rockish, but the great song. I have a student who's been learning a lot of ABBA stuff lately. If we want to go to older pop, and really been digging "Voulez-Vous" by ABBA a lot lately. So kind of three different eras of pop, and I like those three songs. Oh, and "Rome" by the B-52s. That's been a favorite of mine for a long time. That's a great pop song. Okay, and what are the future plans for Lunar? Well, as I said earlier in this interview, we just released our fourth album, Tempora Mutantur. It's available now on our Bandcamp page. Please go pick up a copy if you haven't done so already. Anyway, we doing a lot of promotion, press, things like this to promote this album. We will be making our live debut finally as this band after 10 plus years, 4 albums and an EP. We're finally hitting the stage for the first time at the Hyperspace Metal Festival in Vancouver. April 10th through 12th is that festival. Some other great bands on that bill too. I know Glyph is there, Enforcer is there, Psychostick, I believe. Lots of great bands. So it's gonna be a good time. If you're in the Vancouver area, definitely come out, check us out for that. So that's in the near future, doing that kind of stuff. Beyond that, I've already started working on album number 5. The demos are pretty solid for it. So after things kind of wind down with this, I'll start getting into that a little bit more seriously, and we'll start tracking some parts and figuring stuff out with that. Hopefully, Hyperspace won't be the only live appearance Lunar will make. Some other stuff potentially up in the air, but we'll see where it goes with that. So yeah, that's about it. That's what we got planned. Thank you, Antichrist Magazine, for having me for this interview. Thank you, everybody that tuned in and watched. And thank you to all Lunar fans out there. Thank you to everybody that has listened to and shared and purchased the album. Really, it means the world to me. Thank you so much.